So combined efficacy analysis of sunvozertinib in patients with lung cancer and EGFR exon 20 insertion mutations who have been previously treated with platinum doublet showed combined overall response rate across studies was 52.4%. It is important to notice that in a Wukong 6 study that was presented recently at ESMA, the confirmed overall response for that study was 59. So you can see that the responses are somewhat consistent across the two studies. Responses were seen regardless of the place where the mutation happened in exon 20. We know that you can separate those places of mutations into the near loop and far loop, and responses were seen in both of those categories, and responses were seen in both ASV mutation as well as SVD mutation. It is also interesting that there were 4 patients that were enrolled in a study who have previously received amivantamab, which is a monoclonal bispecific antibody against EGFR and MET, and some responses were seen in that population. There are only 4 patients enrolled, so it's hard to give us the percentages, but I think it's encouraging to see that the drug does provide responses for that patient population. Another important information is for our patients with EGFR mutations in general, CNS activity becomes a battleground because as those patients live longer than patients, let's say, without any oncogenically driven mutations, by the natural history of the disease, they will develop brain metastasis at some point. So there was a case that was presented together with my presentation at North American Conference on Lung Cancer, which showed a response to sunvozertinib in a CNS. So that was very encouraging. The toxicities that we see with sunvozertinib is something that we would expect for patients receiving EGFR tyrosine kinase inhibitors. So this is kind of a class effect. I think it's also important to notice that if you look at the incidence of grade 3 toxicity and above, which is more severe toxicity, the incidence of grade 3 toxicity overall was less than 10% across each of the categories described. And there is an ongoing pivotal phase 2 study which is looking for this population that I just described, and enrollment for that study is ongoing. Certainly, if you have a patient that you're looking for treatment option, highly encourage you to refer that patient to a clinical trial.